You're listening to Popcorn Unscripted,
the podcast where we dive into movies and TV shows with no scripts, no filters, just real talk and plenty of popcorn.
I'm Bailey.
And I'm Dylan.
We're here to talk about everything we love
And love to hate
in pop culture. So grab your popcorn,
sit back,
and let's get this show started. 'Cause I'm all alone, and there's no one here beside me. Welcome to episode 18! Did anybody else cringe from that? Good, you were meant to. So I am here in the studio by myself. I have been avoiding doing a solo episode for 18 episodes, since this is episode 18. Here's the thing, I don't like to do things by myself, because when I'm by myself with my own thoughts and I'm speaking openly, sometimes I say things that could get me in trouble, and I don't want to get in trouble, so now I'm gonna have to, speak freely, but also monitor what I say, because sometimes I say the wildest things, and sometimes they can get me in very deep trouble. So, today is going to be a 2-part episode. So, this first part is going to be like a behind-the-scenes type deal. I'm going to talk about how Popcorn Unscripted got started, the recording process, my favorite episode so far, what I've learned, personal movie tastes, and what is possibly coming up in the near future. And then we're going to go into a very big childhood movie of mine that I've pretty much wore out the VHS tape for when I was little. And so that movie is Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. It is such a very big classic for me, and very, very big staple in my childhood. So I'm just going to go ahead and we're going to get started. So how Popcorn Unscripted came to be. So where the idea came from. So I started watching Only Murders in the Building. And if you have never watched the show, basically it's about these 3 people who love murder podcasts. And so ultimately a murder happens in their building, and they end up making a podcast about it. And of course, it was rocky at first, but they slowly started to gain a following, and they became a really great podcast, eventually. And so, over the course of me watching through the 4 seasons of that show, I was like, why don't I do that? Because all of my life, I loved going to the movies, watching movies, and watching TV. I've always enjoyed that growing up because it's one of my outlets. Because in school, I didn't have a lot of friends. I didn't get along with my peers very well. So movies and TVs and even video games were a very big outlet for me, and it was my way of expressing myself, and it was my getaway. And it was something that I could turn to make me feel better about my life in school. So the idea ended up coming from Only Murders in the Building, and I really wanted to talk about movies and TV because I knew that I liked to talk about the things I'm passionate about, and this is one of the things I'm passionate about is movies and TV. So, contrary to your belief, no, Dylan did not come up with this. I came up with all of it on my own, and I ended up pitching the idea to him one day after I had gotten the name picked out, I had gotten the logo made, I had gotten a plan figured out, I had everything figured out for the most part, and I told him, and then I really just pitched him the idea, and he was like, alright, bet. And so that's kind of how it started, me and him doing it together, is I came up with the idea and I pitched it to him and he said, yeah, this would be pretty cool. And so then we started doing it together. So what made me want to talk about movies and TV shows? out loud and not just with friends. So, growing up, I never really had anybody to talk about my favorite movies or TV shows with, because not everybody at my school watched the same thing. So, I didn't have anybody to talk to about anything, really, because the friends that I did have were not interested in the things that I was interested in, and honestly, now that I'm thinking about it, why were we even friends? I don't really know. So this podcast here is like an outlet for me to talk about the things I truly care about, to talk about the movies that I want to talk about, and Dylan wants to talk about, and McKenna wants to talk about, and, and I let them have their input as well. Or at least I try to, even though I've pretty much planned out the rest of the year, but so we don't have to keep thinking about what movie we're going to review the next time. But movies and TV have always been a passion. Now, the reason we haven't done a review on a TV show yet is basically because I'm not sure how to really go about reviewing a TV show specifically. I don't know what would be best. I don't know if we should do an episode on an episode, or if we should do an episode on a season, like we watch a whole season and then we talk about the whole season, or we do an episode where we go through an episode and we just talk about that episode specifically. So, if you guys have any suggestions on that, please let me know. Because I really need some advice on that, honestly. Because I do have some TV shows that I would really like to talk about, but I'm not really sure how to go about it. So, yeah. So, the meaning behind the name Popcorn Unscripted. Okay, so I'm gonna be real with you guys here. I didn't actually come up with this name. All I knew is that I wanted it to be... I knew I wanted to have, I wanted it to say the statement that this podcast is unscripted. Anything and everything could be said, except for curse words. We try our best not to curse. Sometimes it slips from a certain someone, and I have to cut it out or bleep them out. Dylan. McKenna. So I know I wanted something that described that we are unscripted, but I also wanted something that had to do with movies and TV shows. And what was the thing that was most associated with movies and TV shows? Well, of course, popcorn. But the reason I'm saying this now, because I've actually sat down and thought about it, but what I ended up doing, I went to ChatGPT. Of course, I'm using AI here, but it's a great tool. Don't get me wrong, but that's a whole different conversation. So I go to ChatGPT and I put in all of that information, and so it gives me a list of different ones. But Popcorn Unscripted was the main one that stood out to me the most. It was yeah, that's exactly what I wanted. So that's where the name came from, really. And so it just kind of went on from there. Even the logo was generated by ChatGPT, in all honesty. Now, I know I'm probably going to get hated on for doing that, but let's be real. I am in no condition to be paying an artist at this time. Yeah, so that's where all of that has come from. So the recording process, was there fun, chaotic moments before or during recordings? Always. It's mostly always before we record, because that's our time where we kind of get settled in and we kind of chill and we kind of get into the mindset of, okay, we're going to record, things like that. There's one specific moment, and I honestly wish Dylan was here to tell the story, because he's the one that made me laugh that hard. So one episode in particular, I believe it was episode 10. So the story goes is I was going to make a big deal out of it because it was our first double-digit episode. We hit the double digits. We hit 10 episodes. I wanted to make a big deal out of it. And this little heifer catches me off guard, and I laugh for 2 whole minutes. Like, I couldn't even breathe. Like, I was laughing so hard, I couldn't even breathe. My ribs started hurting. I was like, and it's all because he said something, and it was just the funniest moment, which is why you hear me laughing at the beginning of that 10th episode. 10th full episode, I should be specific. 10th full episode. Because it's just, yeah, and so he completely caught me off guard, and I was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna start the episode. I'm not even gonna make a big deal out of this anymore. We've only been recording for 2 minutes. I'm just gonna get started. And so that's one that kind of sticks in my mind a lot of the times. And then, of course, him making fun of me because I absolutely adore Pedro Pascal. Listen, everybody in the world has the adoration for that man. I am not the only one, okay? Listen. So, how do we prep for episodes? So, I do require a rewatch either the day before or the day of when we are recording. Or even watching it several times before we record, because I like for the movie to be at the forefront of our minds and for it to be as fresh as possible on our minds. And so we don't even take notes when we watch these movies, which a lot of the movies that we've recorded we have seen previously. Except for Materialists, that was a special case because the movie had just come out. We went and watched it that day, that Friday when it come out, and then because he just so happened to be off on Friday, thank God, and so yeah, we got to go watch and do that. You guys seem to like that, by the way, so we will continue, but I will say more on that later on. It doesn't take that much for us to prep. We just rewatch the movie, and then I generate up the questions, and we just kind of wing it. We just kind of speak what's on our minds after the question is asked, and we just kind of ponder, and then we say what our thoughts are, and yeah. So we pretty much wing it for the most part. Mainly the taking notes thing. I don't think I could take notes. I genuinely don't think. I like to pay attention when I'm watching a movie. When I'm watching a movie, I'm taking in everything, like the music, the sounds, the characters, what they're wearing. I'm taking in everything. I'm noticing everything visually. And I usually remember stuff quite vividly as well. And obviously, Dylan does not sometimes. Sometimes he's absolutely oblivious, but we love him. We love him anyway. So, has there been any funny tech hiccups or off-mic bloopers? There's always off-mic bloopers. Some I can't necessarily talk about. I might get Dylan to talk about them when he comes back, or McKenna, or both of them. I might ask both of them. But, yeah, always plenty of off-mic bloopers. As for funny tech hiccups, though, I always forget to set the recording device as the mixer sometimes, because I work off of a 2018 MacBook Pro, and it still has like touch bar and stuff, and so I hook up the mixer to the MacBook, but in Audacity it is automatically set to the MacBook microphone, and so I have to go in and change it when we go to record, and sometimes I forget to do that. There was one episode where we forgot to even test the mics and make sure that it is recording. And we just I think we recorded for like 12 minutes, and I realized that something was weird with the audio. And so I was like, wait a minute. And so I go and look at the audio setup section, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's not even set to the mixer. And so it was a big brain fart moment, but, it happens to the best of us. It happens. So, my favorite episode so far, which was the most fun recording and why? Honestly, I think doing the bubble was the funnest I had, mainly because I was doing it with Dylan and McKenna in the same room, and our dynamic when we're all three together is absolute chaos, so I think that's why it was so much fun. And we don't get to do that often because Dylan's schedule is sometimes weird, and then McKenna sometimes has stuff that she does in the afternoons before she has to go to bed, and and it's just kind of crazy sometimes to get somebody lined up. Sometimes stresses me out, not gonna lie, but I try to make do with what I can do, and I try to do my best. But I have to say the Bubble's probably been my favorite so far. Because they keep making fun of me for my love of Pedro Pascal. But you can never bring down somebody that adores Pedro Pascal. Never. Ever. We are the Pascal Nation. So has there been a moment that's really made me laugh or surprised me while recording? Other than that time that I had mentioned, not really. But then again, Dylan catches me off guard a lot of the times, and a lot of times I catch him off guard. So it's like it's chaos. It's unscripted chaos. What more can I say? I don't really know what more I can say about it, but yeah. So what I've learned while doing the podcast. So has it changed the way that I watch movies or TV shows and how and the way I think about them? For movies, it definitely has. I've noticed that I've started looking deeper into it, I guess is one way to put it. I've started looking at movies differently. I've started looking at the costume design, the way people interact, and the way the story flows. I mostly started paying attention to the story and how the story flows and how everything comes together and all of that kind of stuff. Now, here's the thing. I don't know a lot about TV and film lingo. I don't know a whole lot about it. I was not really a film nerd, but I did enjoy movies growing up. I wasn't necessarily a big nerd about it, but I kind of was at the same time. It's just a weird thing. It's just weird. Because if I'm going to be real, the most movies I had watched growing up was Marvel movies and superhero movies, because those were the things I could relate to at the time. So watching movies outside of that has kind of been interesting. Like, especially there's been several movies, and I'm going to talk about Pedro a lot because he has shown me so much over the last 2 years that it's been absolutely insane. So he has really opened my eyes to more genres of film than I really wanted to watch. So one movie in particular that he talked about, or I had seen everybody talking about, I don't know if he actually talked about this movie, but Civil War, which has Wagner Moura in it. I think that's how he says his name, but I don't know. And then Mary Jane from the Tobey Maguire. I can't think of her name at the moment, but it had her in it as well. Absolutely amazing movie. I absolutely fell in love with that movie. It was absolutely amazing. And then I watched Materialist this year as well. And let's see. I'm trying to think of other movies, but none's coming to mind. But my eyes have really been open to newer movies, and we are going to review Sinners at some point. I know it comes out July 4th, so I plan on watching that and doing a review on it. Even if I have to do it by myself, I will for sure do that, because I've heard nothing but good things about it, and I really want to watch it. So I didn't get to go watch it in a theater, unfortunately, because I couldn't get myself motivated to actually go pay $12 for a movie ticket and watch a movie. But it is what it is. So has there been any unexpected challenges while doing this? there has been quite a lot of struggles for me. Mainly trying to get Dylan and McKenna in the studio. McKenna's been a bit easier about getting in the studio and stuff because she's a bit flexible. Dylan, not so much, because he has things that pop up out of the blue a lot of the times, and so it's kind of unpredictable for him when he can come to the studio. But I try not to let that affect me. I try to work my way around it and try to figure out what else I could do, so that way I'm not exclusively relying on him to kind of help me out in this situation. Hence why I am having to do this episode solo. Especially lately, I've been very unmotivated to even post on my socials and make and edit reels and shorts and stuff. Like, I've been very unmotivated to do that because I don't really have anybody pushing me to do it. I don't have anybody encouraging me at all. Yeah, it's been fairly difficult, especially over the last couple of days since I've been laid off from my job as well. So it's been a roller coaster of things. So now I think I'm gonna have to try to find me a new job. I'm not sure what's going to happen with that, but yeah, so just bear with me if something does change or if things do change. I'm trying to. I really hope that this goes somewhere. I really want this to go somewhere, and I don't know if it will. I would really like for it to, because I do feel like this is what I'm supposed to be doing, what I'm meant to be doing, but I don't really know if it's really up to me, or if it's up to fate, or if it's up to whatever is in the heavens. But I have this feeling like this is what I'm meant to be doing, and this is the thing I want to be consistent in my life. Because for me, I don't have a lot of consistency in my life. Everything is like go with the flow, things pop up, and I have to work that into my day. I'm like one of those people where I hate it when my schedule gets disrupted by something that just pops up. Like, I have to work my day around it. Like, if I have a day all planned out and then something happens and it disrupts my plans, I absolutely hate it. I'm one of those people where I just absolutely hate it. It just messes up my whole day, and it messes up my whole mood, and I just absolutely hate it so much. But yeah, it's been fairly challenging, especially over the last couple of weeks. But we've pushed through it, and I will continue to push through it, and I will continue to do this, because this is the thing I believe I want to do. And yeah. So, what does keep me motivated to keep going? So, I'm gonna put it this way. I don't want this podcast to end up on my unfinished project's landfill. I don't want this to end up there, because I have so many things that I have started and have never finished. Now, of course, this podcast isn't something that would necessarily be finished. This is something that would be ongoing. But this is something that I want to stay consistent with, something I want to be consistent with, because I have never had anything that's really consistent and that stays consistent in my life. And I want this to be that thing where it's like a part of me. It becomes a part of me, and it becomes the thing that I know I can do, I guess. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. But yeah, so my personal taste in movies. So what's my go-to comfort movie or genre? So I don't necessarily have a comfort genre, because I watch so many different types of movies. But the movie that I would watch when I'm in the hospital, specifically, is Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. And of course, that has Pedro Pascal in it, but it also has Nick Cage in it. And so this movie, I can never not laugh at it, because it's just such a funny movie, and their facial expressions are just so funny. It's just a hilarious movie. I can't not laugh at it, and it's just an amazing thing. And it's funny because it came out in 2020, which is one of the big years of COVID. And so it came out during that time, and I didn't ever learn about it until 2023, when I had discovered Pedro through The Last of Us. I had never heard of it. But now that I'm thinking about it, I think I do remember seeing posters of it. I don't know, but yeah, I would say that one is definitely one of my comfort movies. The Avengers is one of my comfort movies. Avengers Age of Ultron, the Iron Man movies. Let's see. What else? I like to watch The Wizard of Oz, of course, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. I love Chitty Chitty Bang Bang too. A lot of these older movies are definitely more comfort to me. I like to have a movie that I can just put on in the background where I don't have to pay attention to it, but it's there to provide the comfort that I need, I guess, is one of the things. So, what is coming up in the future? So, next month is a pretty big month. Very, very big month for movies. So, next month we get Superman on the 11th. And then we get Eddington on the 18th. And then we get Fantastic Four on the 25th of next month. So there's 3 movies that are coming out in theaters that we will be reviewing. And funny, well, 2 of them are superhero movies actually. Eddington's not, but yeah. So next month is going to be a pretty big month because we are going to be reviewing Superman, Eddington, and Fantastic Four. I am super, super pumped for Fantastic Four. If you don't know, then you don't know, but I will try to make some reels and stuff to show you guys what I've collected so far and what I've got going on with that, to kind of show you how hyped I am for that. I will have 3 of the pizza boxes from Little Caesars. I'll still need the Human Torch. I have most of the cereal boxes. I still need the Reese's Puffs, which has Thing on it, and I still need the Trix, which has Herbie on it. And I just got both of the Pop-Tart boxes today, the strawberry and the blue raspberry. I'm super, super excited. Super excited for those. Absolutely. I'm so excited. So yeah, I'm super excited for that. And also my Fantastic Four costume came in today from its actual movie costume. But here's the thing too. If you are going to the fan event at the Cinemark in Huntsville, that's at the Bridge Street, I will be there. I will be there. I will do a face reveal before then to kind of, so you guys will know what I look like, obviously. So I will be there on the 24th for that fan event, mainly because I want the patch. So I have a patch jacket that I've been putting together, and I was like, oh, that's so perfect. So I'm going there for the fan event, and then I'm going to our local AMC theater for the actual release of Fantastic Four. So I'm watching it twice in one go. So I'm watching it twice, and I'm super, super excited for it. Cannot wait. Fantastic Four is my most anticipated movie of the year. After these 3 movies, I don't really have anything movie-wise that we're really interested in seeing in the rest of the coming months, other than December when Five Nights at Freddy's 2 comes out. So if you guys have any suggestions, please let us know, and we will go watch those and we will review those for you guys if you guys are interested in that. So any guest ideas or format experiments or anything, I do eventually want to experiment with a TV show sort of thing, so I don't know which format I want to go with, where we do an episode on a specific episode, or if we do an episode on a whole season. think I would want to do, if it's like short seasons, I would probably want to do the format 1 episode first season. That is probably how I would want to go about it. But here's the thing about most TV shows nowadays. Most TV shows nowadays, their episodes are about 45 minutes long. So you would be watching, like, if like say like a show has like 8 episodes and each episode is like 40 minutes long. You're basically watching at least 1.5 movies of content, which is absolutely bonkers, because I believe the average time for a movie is at least 2 hours. A movie is at least 2 hours. I know there's movies longer than 2 hours, but I think the mark is 2 hours. At least 2, or close to 2 hours for the most part, is what most movies are. A lot of movies are like 1.5 to 2 hours, which is fine. That's one of the things, one movie in general that I could never ever sit through is the Avatar movies. Like the in-person, like, Avatar movies. Like Avatar and then Avatar Way of Water. And, I couldn't ever watch those because they were just so long and so packed full of story. It's like, when does the story end? Like, I want this to end. And another series that I couldn't ever get into is, of course, Lord of the Rings. Like, it feels like they go on for just forever. And I'm just like, please stop it. And so, yeah. I don't really have any guest ideas. My mother said she would come on. I do have one other person that said they would do it if I get in touch with them. Actually, 2 people, if I were to get in touch with them. I just don't know how we would go about doing it remotely. Although I do have a third mic now where we could have a guest here in the studio. But other than that, I'm not exactly sure for guests at the moment. So, yeah. So, if you guys have any movie or TV show suggestions, please let us know. And I also want to give some of you guys shout-outs as well, because I was looking at the stats the other day, and as part of the stats is we can look at where people are from. Of course, most of our listeners are from the United States, so thank you. We absolutely appreciate you. But we also have quite a few from the European side of the world, such as South Africa, New Zealand, Germany, Singapore, the UK, Australia, and even Belgium. So if you are from any of those places, thank you so much for listening. I hope that we are doing you justice. I hope you can understand us, because English is, as we have mentioned several times, English is a very hard language to learn. Even we can't speak it properly half the time, and it's our first language. So yeah, we appreciate you all, and I do hope that this podcast is a comfort to you, and somehow we bring you guys joy, and you guys are able to laugh along with us. Alright, enough about me for now, so let's unwrap the main event. Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. It has been one of these movies that has just stuck with me since I was a kid, as I've mentioned before. It's something about the music, the magic, and the slightly terrifying vibes. It's weird, it's whimsical, and it's kind of perfect in its own messed up way. So, let's talk about it. First impressions. When did I first see it? I honestly don't remember when I first saw it. I honestly don't know how long we've had the VHS tape, but I do know that I was the only one in my household that would watch it, because it was me and my brother, and my brother didn't really care anything about it, so I was the one that would watch it consistently, and my mother would watch it with me, and so it's just been a very big staple of my childhood, as many other musicals have been. Such as The Wizard of Oz, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, Mary Poppins, all of those have been huge staples in my childhood. And so, yeah, so it wasn't necessarily confusing at all. This movie is pretty straightforward when it comes to that. But here's one of the fun facts about this movie, and it's one of the fun facts most people know about when they think of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. So the fact is that Gene Wilder had one major condition when he before he accepted the role. He had one major condition, and that was before. Hold on, I'm trying to do words. So he had one major condition before accepting the role. He said that he would do it only if he could make the entrance of his character limping. If he could come in limping and then do a somersault at the end. And of course, the writers were like, why? And he ended up saying, so audience would never know if Wonka was lying or not. Which is, of course, brilliant. But of course, to my little mind, I never really thought of it that way. I was like, I don't think he was lying at all in the which of course he was lying at the end with Charlie, but I guess I could kind of see it now that I'm thinking about it. I could kind of see it. But yeah, so what is my favorite song or scene in the movie? So I would say my favorite part, I guess, because it's not necessarily a specific scene, my favorite part is them going through the first room where you have the chocolate river and you have everything in there is edible. I was just like, oh my gosh, that's like somebody's like dream world right there, where everything is edible and everything. And I think, I would think people would say Pure Imagination is one of the most well-known and the most popular among the songs of the original. But I would say mine is Candyman. The song with the with the Candyman at the beginning in the candy shop. I don't know, it's been something about that song that I've just enjoyed recently, and I think that's always been my favorite, maybe. And then, of course, the Oompa Loompa song as well. But, yeah, I would say that. And here's a fun fact about the Chocolate River that I actually found out today, and I didn't know about that. So, apparently, the Chocolate River was actually made with real chocolate, water, and cream, which apparently spoiled quickly and smelled awful during the filming. And I about hurled when I read this. I was like, oh my gosh. And they had a kid drink that. I honestly want to ask the actor who played Augustus Gloop. I really want to ask him if that stuff was spoiled when he did that, when he had to drink from that. I was just like, oh my gosh. I hope he didn't get sick, and I hope they filmed that scene before it spoiled, of course. But yeah, that was crazy. I didn't know that, but that's crazy. So we're gonna move on to Gene Wilder's performance. So he did have a bit of a balance of charm and danger, mainly because when you think of like the most dangerous part of the movie, I would say the most dangerous thing is Violet Beauregard turning into a blueberry. And then of course you have the boat ride too, which was pretty horrifying, especially back then. Like seeing all of those images, it's like he made them hallucinate or something. I don't really know. I never really dove deep into that, but that scene always freaked me out. The boat scene always freaked me out. But I have a bunch of fun facts actually. But the thing about the boat ride is that the kids at the time weren't warned ahead of time how scary the ride would actually be. So their reactions to the boat ride was 100% real. They were genuinely freaked out, and I think that just adds to that scene very, very much. And so, and there's also one thing too. The thing about Gene Wilder is that he also improvised quite a bit of his scenes, especially the scene where it's at the very end of the movie where it's him, Charlie, and then of course Charlie's grandpa. They're in Willy Wonka's office, and he's arguing with his grandpa, with Charlie's grandpa, and he's just like, "Good day, sir. You lose. Good day, sir." And so that was completely improvised by Gene Wilder, and it was delivered with such force on the first take that it even scared the actor that played Charlie, which I thought was very interesting. Which it makes me wish that I could have met Gene Wilder, because I bet he was just such a fun person to be around. I bet he was just an amazing person to be around. Would I say he was unpredictable though? Which now that I'm thinking about it, maybe he was a bit unpredictable. But at the same time, I've watched this movie so many times that I'm not, like, I can't take it back and watch it with fresh eyes. I just can't. So it's like, I don't really know. I would have to get somebody that has never watched the movie to watch the movie and then ask them, do you think he was unpredictable, and see what they say. But as for me, since I've watched the movie so many times and I don't even know what my first reaction was, to me he's not really unpredictable. But I would think that since if you were looking at it from a person's perspective that has never seen the movie, I would say yes, he is in fact predictable. Because at the beginning he does, like I was talking about earlier, he does the limp out and then he does a somersault, which is completely unexpected and unpredicted. Because you're just like, oh, so he's just gonna limp slowly all the way to the gate? And then he does a somersault and you're just like, oh, he's limber. Nice! So, the dark undertones of the movie. So, there's some very dark undertones in this movie. There's a whole lot of symbolism in this movie too. So let's be real. Some of those punishments the kids went through were very harsh. Especially, I don't know which one was worse. I honestly think with Violet turning into a blueberry, I think that's the harshest one. In all honesty, I think that one, like, I always thought that one was harsh. Honestly, Veruca Salt had that coming when she went down the garbage chute. She had that coming. She kind of did that to herself. Because it's like, what do you think is gonna happen? Do you think it only weighs eggs? Anything, I would assume that scale weighs anything heavy and determines if it's good or bad. But yeah, I would say the fate of, not Veruca, but Violet, is the one that sticks with me the most, in all honesty. It's just, like, dang, she turned to a blueberry. Like, how does that happen? It's like, she just blows up like a pimple, and they end up having to go and pop her before she blows. So, how do I feel about these tones as an adult? Honestly, it's very harsh. And here's one thing, is I want to bring your attention to the Oompa Loompa song that they do for Veruca Salt. So, if you look at this song from this, it's so funny. So it goes, okay, so here's the song right here. So it goes, who do you blame when your kid is a brat, pampered and spoiled like a Siamese cat? Blaming the kids is a lie and a shame. You know exactly who's to blame, the mother and the father. And then it then goes, Oompa Loompa doopity da. if you're not spoiled, then you will go far. You will live in happiness too. Like the Oompa Loompa Doopity Doo. I just think these lyrics are just so savage, though. I always thought, like, when I listened to these as an adult, I was like, damn! Because you can relate to these lyrics so much for kids these days, too. Like, damn. This is, like, these lyrics are brutal. So, visuals and vibes. So, set designs, costumes, chocolate wonderland aesthetics. Honestly, I love the colors and the vibes of this movie. I love that Willy Wonka wears purple. What? I don't really know what the origin of the purple suit was, but it fits him so well that it's just, I don't really know how to explain it, why the purple suit just stands out to me, but it does. It's almost like he's a ringleader, you know? I don't know, but yeah. It's kind of like he's a ringleader of the circus, but instead of him having like a usual circus red, he wears purple. But yeah, I think that's why I watched this movie so many times, because of the way the movie looks and the way it, like, just the way it feels, and, you know, and all of that kind of stuff. It's just absolutely incredible. Yeah. And does the style still hold up? Honestly, for it being 1971, it was not bad at all. The visuals were not bad at all for 1971. Do they still hold up today? Probably not. Mainly because our technology has evolved from that point. Honestly, if I were to think about it, I think Willy Wonka is about 50 years old now? Okay, so the movie is 54 years old. And I still enjoy it to this day. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people still enjoy it to this day. I might be the only one of my generation that still enjoys it to this day, other than Dylan. But yeah, I could watch this movie a million times over, and I will always enjoy this movie. Does the movie still hold up today, as a whole? I would say yes. Because you can always learn something from the older movies, regardless of how old the movie is. I genuinely think I always learn something new whenever I rewatch, say, The Wizard of Oz, or this movie in general, or Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. I always learn something different every time I watch it. I always see something new, and I always discover something new. And that's what I love about film and TV, because it's so versatile. You can learn so much from these characters and from these stories. And I think that's why I enjoy such a good story and such a good... It's just such a good... Really just such a good story. I love listening and telling stories. Listening to stories, telling stories, writing stories. Honestly, I wish I would read more, but I can't. I don't have the attention span, unfortunately. So, is this movie something I would recommend to newer generations? Absolutely. This movie is a classic. It's always fun. You can always dance around to it. It's an amazing, colorful movie, and I would recommend it to anybody who hasn't watched it. And yeah, this movie is a staple in my childhood, and I want it to be a staple in my children's childhoods whenever I end up having kids. I want them to grow up watching the movies that I enjoyed, and if they don't enjoy it, that's fine, but at least I know they gave it a try. And, you know, just like my mom took the chance in showing it to me, and I ended up loving it and wearing it the VHS tape. Can't speak. Brain shutting down. Oh no. That's all for today's episode of Popcorn Unscripted.
Thanks so much for tuning in.
If you enjoyed the conversation, be sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at PopUnscripted, then Popcorn Cinema on Facebook.
And let us know your thoughts or any suggestions for future episodes. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out any future episodes. We upload every Wednesday and Saturday.
If you'd like to send us a message or subscribe for bonus content, check out the links in the description.
Your support means a lot and helps keep the conversation going.
If you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to leave us a review. It helps us out a ton, and we love hearing your thoughts.
Until next time, keep your popcorn close
And your movie critiques closer.
Thanks for listening to Popcorn Unscripted.